27, 2013, an article about Chinatown. The headline is, "In Boston's Chinatown, longtime residents face an uncertain future." This is by Samara Breger and Bruce Gellerman, November 27, 2013. Over the decades, cheap rents made the neighborhood an attractive place for waves of immigrants. But today, the neighborhood of low-rise buildings is in high demand. New luxury apartment buildings are driving up property values and driving out longtime residents. They're being displaced by a new wave of immigrants, wealthy entrepreneurs from China. Soon, there will be no more Chinatown. Boston's Chinatown is the third largest Chinatown in the nation, but the Chinese population has been steadily decreasing. Residents are moving to towns like nearby Malden, where the Chinese population has tripled, and Quincy, where it has quadrupled. Many, like Bowen Q, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, who lives in Randolph, regularly return to Chinatown to shop. "I really want to move to Chinatown," she said. I live really far right now, so I would really love to move to Chinatown if I can. Right now, QIU is how it's spelled, works at a restaurant. "I don't get paid a lot," she said. "For the amount of money I make, I won't be able to afford to live in Chinatown." According to Boston's Department of Neighborhood Development, the average annual income for a family in Chinatown is only about $14,000. That's less than any other Boston neighborhood. "A lot of people are actually doubled up," Chen said. "If it's a two-bedroom unit, it could be two families instead of one family. And you know the rents around here. It used to be, I would say, a range from $700 to $900 for like a one-bedroom. But now, if you talk about luxury towers, right, a one-bedroom could be like $3,000. In Boston, developers have to build some affordable housing to get their projects approved or contribute money for affordable housing elsewhere." I'm still quoting the Boston Globe. "But because incomes in Chinatown are so low, many residents can't even afford affordable housing. Using the city's formula, a family of four would need to make $67,000 a year to qualify for affordable housing. That's about 5 times the average income in Chinatown," according to Sheila Dillon, Boston's Director of Neighborhood Development. Right now, again quoting the Globe, "Right now Chinatown has more affordable housing by percentage than any other Boston neighborhood, but it's also the densest neighborhood in the city, and with that many needy people, there's a huge demand for more affordable housing. For example, Tai Tong Village, one of Chinatown's largest housing projects, has an 18-year waiting list." Boston's Chinatown is undergoing a historic transformation. Over the last decade, as the percentage of Chinese living there has continued to decline, the white population has doubled. Small shops catering to Asian customers are closing and moving out. Compared to other Chinatowns in the nation, Boston's has the largest percentage of chain stores. So that's the end of my quoting from the Globe about Chinatown. So again, you can see that the results of all this fancy talk about linkage and mayor's plans and so forth is raging gentrification. So why is that? Well, gentrification is an integral feature of a society based on class inequality, in which some have more money than others, and in which one can have what one can afford to buy and not have what one cannot afford to buy. When a neighborhood becomes more desirable for whatever reason for wealthier people, they will locate there. Because wealthier people can afford to pay higher rents or home sale prices, rents and home prices will rise, causing property taxes to rise as well, forcing poor renters and homeowners to move elsewhere in search of affordable housing. And this is gentrification, as I talked about at the beginning. Gentrification is inevitable in a capitalist society based on class inequality, based on money, and based on a free market. To make gentrification illegal entails abolishing class inequality and replacing an economy based on money, in which you can only have what you can afford to buy, with a sharing economy in which, because you contribute reasonably, you can have what you reasonably need, or desire, period. This is egalitarianism. It is indeed what most people want, and it's possible. So now I'd like to say something about why we don't see a fight to make gentrification illegal. City Life Vita Urbana, like virtually all progressive organizations with a substantial staff of employees, gets its money in part from big money. Now, I'm talking about City Life Vita Urbana because it's the main organization in Jamaica Plain that's famous for opposing gentrification. And a lot of good people in Boston altogether, and a lot of good people, look to it for leadership and join in some of its events, like, for example, occasionally blocking or trying to block an eviction.
Right, that's
and
one of their popular.
and that's all fine and good, but but here's what we have to understand about City Life. It gets its money from big money. It has a fair amount of money. It has a large staff, many people that it has to pay, and has office space and so forth. One of its funders is something called the Access Strategies Fund. Now, a member of the board of directors of Access Strategies Fund is a person named Dana Cunningham, and her online bio reads, quote, Cunningham was an associate director at the Rockefeller Foundation from 1997 to 2004. The Rockefeller Foundation is not famous for advocating removal of the rich from power, no rich and no poor, and that kind of stuff. Thus, City Life Vita Urbana is funded in part by an organization, the board of directors of which includes a former associate director of the Rockefeller Foundation, that great champion of egalitarianism. Another member of the board of directors of Access Strategies Fund is a person named Greg Jobin Leeds, whose bio online reads, quote, Greg currently serves on committees of 6 investment portfolios with particular interest in mission-related investing. In 2007, Greg was appointed by Governor Deval Patrick to serve on the Massachusetts Readiness Project Leadership Council, specifically as a member of the long-term funding subcommittee. Now, Greg Jobin Leeds' bio does not, however, note that he is a very rich guy. Rich enough so that an article about how the rich control politics could write the following. It says, quote, that's why Cambridge social activists Greg and Maria Jobin Leeds, for example, ended up hiring political consultant Mike Folgerberg to help them sort through the dizzying array of 527s, which is investment jargon for something, before they gave $100,000 to Progressive Majority election campaign thing in January. So the other member of the board, another member of the board of directors on the funding agency, or one of the funding agencies for City Life Vita Urbana, is this guy Greg Jobin Leeds, and he and his wife are the kind of people that can give $100,000 to the Progressive Majority. Okay, so City Life Vita Urbana's funding is directed by some very wealthy people who are tight with Governor Patrick, another great champion of egalitarianism when he isn't on trips to Israel to forge greater business ties between Zionist perpetrators of violent ethnic cleansing in Massachusetts, which he just finished doing recently. So I'm going to conclude now by just saying this, that the ruling class prevents people from fighting to make gentrification illegal by making us feel hopeless about the possibility, as well as by making organizations that are trying to deal with gentrification be funded by sources that basically tell them don't aim to make it illegal by changing society. So the ruling class tries to make us feel hopeless. They do this by preventing people from hearing that there is a way, and it's not anti-democratic communism or socialism or capitalism, but that there is a way, which is egalitarianism, for society to be without gentrification, and that it would make us a much better society in a whole lot of other respects. And they prevent people from knowing that in wanting this better society, they are part of a majority and not a hopelessly small minority. That's why the mass media, you never hear people talking about, let's remove the rich from power, have real, not fake democracy with no rich and no poor, on any of the mass media. Even Democracy Now! And the alternative press never informs its listeners or its readers that most people feel this way. They might occasionally have someone who say, we ought to have this, but the implicit message is, yeah, but of course we're the tiny minority that want this. Most Americans don't, right? So it's a message of hopelessness, even if it takes this strange sort of lefty form. And as I said, the funding organizations define what it means to oppose gentrification as just mitigating it and maybe trying to stop an eviction here or there instead of making it illegal. So PDR Boston, we have a better idea. Let's inform a majority of Americans that there is a better way to arrange society, talk about egalitarianism. Inform them also that when people hear about it, a majority of Americans say they would love it. And let's build an egalitarian revolutionary movement of the majority to defeat the minority and make an egalitarian society in which gentrification is indeed illegal. And that's the end of my talk. So we have lots of time to chat.
Yeah. I have a question about when you say making gentrification illegal, gentrification isn't a specific act, it's a process of, values and costs in a community going up, 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 up. But what specifically would you, are you saying nobody can sell a house for more than they bought it or more than they bought it yesterday?
It's funny, when we talk about egalitarianism, it is so fundamentally different that it takes a sort of a little mental leap to realize how fundamentally different it is. So as soon as you asked a question about buying and selling, well, there is no buying and selling in an egalitarian society. There's no money.
So it's way beyond gentrification.
Yeah. See, in an egalitarian society, the things that people concern themselves with are the things that we ought to concern ourselves with, which is, do people need housing? Is there a housing shortage? Does Mrs. So-and-so not have a place to live? And the way that those problems are addressed is, well, we should say that we need people to build housing. Or we should say we got to find a place for Mrs. Smith and her family to live, what's available, right? Money has nothing to do with it. It's about the actual human needs and saying we need to address the human needs.
Oh yeah, right.
So, but we're so used to mediating everything through money. How are we going to get the money to pay for this, right? Money, is just an abstraction. It's just pieces of paper. If that, it's numbers in a ledger in a bank, right?
It's artificial bartering system. So
The reality is that when we say, people say, it's horrible. We waste $4 trillion on the Iraq and Afghanistan war, according to Joseph Stiglitz, the Nobel-winning economist, and so forth. You probably heard that, right? A lot of people have heard about that. But it's not like dollar bills were burned in a fireplace or money was poured into the ocean. What that means is that the number of people, years of work that $4 trillion are the salaries for, right? Those people were not employed to build hospitals and teach in the schools and provide medical care and so forth. They were employed to kill people in some other country and drop bombs on them and to build aircraft carriers and so forth. So So in an egalitarian society, the focus would be on, do we want to send people to some other part of the world to kill them, and do we need to build a huge aircraft carrier and $100 million yacht for Donald Trump? And we would answer those questions by saying, well, gee, I don't know, it doesn't sound like a very good idea to me, rather than by saying, the way it is now, gee, we don't have any money to do what we want to do. You know, everything is abstracted so that the fact that certain very rich people are making decisions for us is sort of obscured. I'm trying to address your question.
Yeah, well, the average people don't have a say in those kind of big decisions with
Absolutely
the
not.
government the way it is now. But
Yeah.
when you say, I'm just saying that in a way, when you say
It's a
let's make
misnomer.
gentrification illegal, you're implying that there's a process to make that specific concept illegal, when you're really talking about a much
Yeah.
broader thing.
It's a
Let's make
misnomer.
our whole society
It's an
illegal.
attention-grabbing headline, you're
It's
right.
an attention-grabbing
It-
headline.
it's a misnomer.
Which gets people
It-
waiting for the
right.
punchline. Oh, how do we do that?
Right,
Is there a law?
right,
Do we file
right.
an amendment? Or
But the thing is, it's not like I'm saying, oh, I know we really can't make it illegal, right? That would be dishonest. I'm saying, yes, we can.
it's part of.
I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It means changing society to be
Yeah,
one
right.
in which this process does not occur.
Disappears, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see, that, right.
Yeah. So I think
hoping there was
I think it's more honest than dishonest. I mean,
Yes.
you know.
Right.
How do you see, what steps do you envision getting from like where we are now to this society?
Okay, wonderful question. Would you like me to start at the end and then work backwards? Or would you like me to start where we are today and work towards this future that you don't know about
I
yet?
think the second option.
The second one, we're at
Where
today,
we are
okay.
now.
This little group